Hello everyone, this is Chara, and welcome to your Splatoon 3 Hot Takes. This video is going to be split into two parts, basically going over your guys' more controversial opinions about the game. I just basically asked on Twitter, what are the takes you have, and we're about to go over them, so let's see what we have. Yo has two takes for me today. First up is weapons with fast kill times, low shots to kill will be very strong because of all the new movement mechanics. I definitely agree with this. I think it might be pretty helpful to be able to kill quickly just because things can move around so fast, both with the specials and with the Squid roll and surge that we've seen. I think having a fast kill time is going to be really relevant. And this especially applies to one-shots, which means things like blasters and chargers could potentially have big benefits. But I guess it also applies to rollers as well. They also can benefit quite a lot. Second up, Bubble Dome will need to be the perfect balance of protection you need to retake in the game, as opposed to Bubbler and Armor, which were way too good in all situations. And just to show you guys how controversial the Bubble Blower special is, or the Big Bubbler special, the next take is that the Bubble Shield will ruin the game. So, I mean, it seems like everyone's pretty split on this. I think it's hard to tell without exactly knowing how the Bubble Shield works, but what I will say is it looks far better than Bubbler and it looks far better than Armor. So even if I'm worried about it, I think it's so much easier to balance this type of deployable shield than it is to mess with Armor or Bubble Blower, and especially Armor. Like, we've seen the devs won't even touch the special or touch things with the special that much because it's so integral to the game. I don't think Big Bubbler is going to have this problem, and I think it's much easier to adjust, so I kind of agree that I think it's a good thing for the game. I'm more on Kyo's side here, but I do think if they balance it wrong, then yeah, that's going to be real annoying. Next up is my favorite take in this, which is Spore saying the majority of Splatoon 2 player base will not transition well to Splatoon 3 due to specials being more solo-orientated. This is exactly the type of thing Splatoon 1 players said to Splatoon 2. When Splatoon 1 was ending, everyone at the time was just saying, oh, if you relied on invincibilities or special spam, then you're going to be really bad in Splatoon 2 because it won't have any broken or spammable specials. So it kind of backfired, and if you were really good at spamming invincibilities, you just kind of did the same with Armor and you'd be fine. However, I do agree that the Splatoon 2 player base is genuinely going to struggle in Splatoon 3. I think many people are used to much more passive gameplay, especially since we've seen more zones only compared to all modes. So I think a lot of people are going to struggle being like, oh man, I really have to fight things now, or now I can't just sit in a corner because this guy can now Zipcast right next to me, or this guy can shoot me across the map with a Zooka. So it's definitely going to be rough adjusting. I do think Splatoon 1 players are going to have a much easier time. If you played Splatoon 1, you'll be fine. I have no worries about it. Going on with the special takes, we have Soldier, who says, I think the barrier will have really good offensive capabilities and not just defensive utility. Think like a roller gets in position and puts it down, extending its life. Basically a much better splashdown. Now, I definitely agree with this. The way I see it is you just go to a super aggressive position somewhere you want to control, and then you just pop down that big bubbler shield, and then just sit inside and be like, oh, what you gonna do? Like, the same thing with the roller was doing it on the bridge. Like, ha, I have a shield on the most important position on this map. What are you gonna do now? Go run in close range and shoot at me? So, yeah, it definitely has aggressive capabilities. It really just depends how exactly the HP of that shield works, if it has any at all, and how damage can be dealt through the shield or not. Like, that's been a big debate, but I do think it'll be fine on aggressive, defensive, and passive weapons. Like, I think the only weapon that might really struggle with it is backlines, but even then, I think it's going to be pretty useful. Like, even for backlines, you can just bully other chargers out of position or be a splatling and not have to worry about a charger is still huge, so I think it's great. Neo Venom says, I don't like the fact that you only get 3 shots with the new Tri-Zooka. The shots seem bulky and slow, so I don't see how helpful of a special it'd be if you get 3 shots. Now, in my opinion, from looking at all the specials, Ink Zooka is easily the hardest looking one in the game, because it only gets 3 shots, and it fires in bursts of 3, but you need to hit multiple of those to kill, which means you have to be insanely accurate with the thing, because if you don't kill anyone, it's not going to paint or do anything. It probably won't last super long duration-wise if it's close to Splat 1 Zooka, so you really, really have to hit your shots with this thing. So, I agree. I don't think it's going to be useless. I just think you're going to have to be a really good player to take advantage of it, and it's going to be really, really hard if you're not used to something like that. So, I think we'll definitely see a lot more people being like Zooka mains, or people who are really used to having Zooka weapons and focusing on just learning the special. Like, it's kind of like Inkjet, but even harder. So I think people are really going to have to focus and actually learn how to play the special. Evgeny TI says both Big Bubbler and Zipcaster will be trash on launch, and Nintendo will do rebalance patches fixing them. The first is definitely not getting an unbreakable shield for the special's duration. It will only block enemy ink, both of which will be easier to counter. Okay, so this take is basically Zipcaster is trash because it's predictable, and Big Bubbler is trash because they'll probably make it too weak. Big Bubbler, I think I could see it being too weak or too strong at launch. In general, anything with HP, Booyah Bomb, Brella shields, etc. are always terrible balance at launch because you need to adjust multipliers and what exactly can do damage to it. So I definitely think the Big Bubbler is either going to be horrible or great on launch. Zipcaster, I don't know. We'll have to talk more about Zipcaster later because there's a lot of opinions on it, but I do think that it might struggle more as the game goes on. I think once people learn how Zipcaster works and how to punish it, the special will gradually get weaker. So I do think at the start of the game it's going to be way better than it will be once people play for a few months. Zipcaster is going to be one of the worst specials in the game if it doesn't have some sort of invincibility, way too predictable and punishable, says H. And I completely disagree here. I know I have said this before, that Zipcaster is punishable in my Chargers video because of its animation. However, that was about chargers that can reach across the entire stage. Most weapons aren't going to be able to punish a Zipcaster user unless the Zipcaster is going directly next to them or in their general area. Like, it could be easier to cancel for some weapons, but I don't think it's going to make it anywhere near Splashdown or need any form of invincibility. I think it's more you have to use it to go somewhere across the stage rather than just using it to dive right on top of someone. So I think it's more going to be, basically, can it be used to go into a better location, or are you going to use it to dive right on top of someone who immediately is going to shoot you? Pentaghoul says the crab tank will be destructible, otherwise it'll be overpowered, and I agree, because how the hell are you supposed to stop its ball form if it's not destructible? Like, genuine question, that thing rolls up walls, can roll everywhere fast. Like, yeah, it's not going to shoot people and do a lot, but it is still free repositioning. So I think it's going to have some form of HP. I don't think it'll be super broken, but I do think it would be just way too much of a, I can just panic this and then roll around wherever I want and I can't die, is way too dumb. So I think there has to be some form of HP. Not because of it being a broken aggressive special, but just being a, oh, I messed up, time to roll away and reposition for free. So there has to be some form of HP on it, I 100% agree. Sylveon says, missiles are annoying as hell and should not have returned in Splatoon 3. They're not super fun to use usually, and fighting against them is super annoying. Now, I disagree with half of this. I think Tenna missiles are absolutely fine to use. You get to call people out, you get to pick targets you want, and using them really well is pretty satisfying, like actually knowing who you're supposed to lock, making proper call-outs, all of that. However, they are way too spammable. But is this the problem of the special, or the problem that all Tenna missiles are like 180p? Like V-Jet's 180, Full Fling's a 180, K-Shot 180, NZAP 89 180. I think the real problem is the overabundance of missile weapons that are 180p and also paint the floor really well. And missiles are low points for special because for the majority of the game's lifespan, they were bad. So that's my opinion of it. I also think Tenna missiles, if you don't use it well coordinated with people or don't use it at the right times, is completely trash in a game like Splatoon 3, where you don't have a bunch of other specials that force people to move. Then yeah, missiles aren't going to do a lot if you don't push in with them. So rather than just, you missile and then you baller, bomb rush, like do a bunch of displacement specials, now it's like you're going to have to use missiles and then push in with a Zooka and actually hit the opponent. So I think missiles will be much more balanced in 3 just because there's less displacement. And I think they have plenty of depth to them. And yeah, some specials, because I see people saying in chat, can be easy. Not every special should be abnormally hard to use. But the execution of the special should not always have to be, you have 3 shots, hit all of them, or you're getting no value. TLDR, missiles are fine, they need to be higher points for special though. Hope says Zipcaster will be broken in solo and terrible in comp. Now, like I've said before, I don't think it's going to be terrible in comp. However, broken in solo, yeah, it might be. The main thing about Zipcaster is that it can be easily punished by people who are coordinated and call out where it goes, so it's much easier to know where the Zipcaster user is, and especially have something like a charger punish it. But in solo queue with a lack of callouts, I think it's a lot easier to get away with bad Zipcast and a lot harder to be punished. And then the playmaking potential of getting kills with it is a lot better. So I do think Zipcaster is one of those specials where it will be way better in solo than it is with comp. Theo says chargers being overpowered will be a good thing because it rewards skilled players for their dedication to one of the most challenging weapons to learn. Now, I hate to say it, but a weapon being hard to use does not equate to, oh, it's completely fine if it's broken. Charger can directly limit how fun the game is to play by drastically limiting your options. A really overpowered charger meta is not one that is fun to play in because you cannot move without getting sniped in a lot of situations. Like, yes, the weapon is hard, and that's better to be meta than some weapons, sure, but it doesn't mean, yeah, it's fine to be meta because it's really hard to use. Like, to be a good meta weapon, it also kind of has to be how it affects everything else in the game. I don't think chargers are going to be super broken, I just think they're going to be really good, so I think it'll be fine. I think it's the case with any weapon. Like, I think Brella is one of the hardest weapons to use, if not the hardest in the game, but my reasoning for Brella being a good meta weapon is not that Brella is really skill heavy, it's that it keeps shooters in check. And my evidence of this could be that after the Brella damage nerf, we now have quad shooter metas. And the way Brella's shield works, it encourages more weapon variety because you want stuff like blasters, chargers, buckets that can fight Brella well, in addition to just running a bunch of shooters. So Brella really helps the meta's variety. The opposite of 52, by the way. So that's why it's important. So at the end of the day, I don't think it's necessarily just how hard the weapon is that matters, but I think it's also how does it affect everything else in the game. UCLA Bashdash says, super happy that Dualies are back. That said, depending on what advanced movement options are available out of ink, I reckon Dualies will need some new movement option to maintain their appeal versus most shooters. I think it really just depends. I think Dualies could use a bit more of rolling having an advantage over the Squid roll, and I've talked before several times about how being able to use them to cancel the Squid roll and Surge would solve this. But if they don't go that route, then I do think they need to make Dualies rolls more unique or kind of buff them somehow. So I think, yeah, to some extent this is true, and dodge rolls need a bit more to them, except for Tetras and CDSs. Tetras dodge rolls you can shoot during, and CDS have the slide, so I think they're fairly distinct. That being said, I think the other three dodge rolls could all use some unique set of buffs or little reworks to make them a little bit better. Chara says Brellas might be really good if you could dodge movement mechanics between shots and shields. Basically, I think Brellas will benefit from the new movement mechanics because it can hold shield while you do the dodge roll and shoot them afterward. This is the same reason why Brellas are really good against Dualies, because you just shoot, and then when they dodge roll, you pull up your shield, block the shots, wait for them to roll again, and shoot. It's the same thing with the movement options to some degree. Like, they'll do the Squid roll, you shield, and then afterward, where they're stuck in that little bit of end lag, you shoot them. Now, if you can shoot and have enough time to pull up your shield during your Squid roll or Surge, then Brellas will be even better, so let's see that. That's all of the hot takes for part 1. We'll be reviewing the second half on Sunday, which goes into things like returning maps, single player, and a lot more. So be sure to subscribe if you want to see it, and I will see you all in the next video.